here's the deal, ready? It's a delicate topic, because when you say people were tricked, the implication is that there's, it's intentional or malicious or something on the other side, but people have been tricked, maybe by themselves, but into a lot of things, but things like thinking themselves as criminals, correlating feelings they've had, with a lot of unwanted side effects, which are really unwanted direct effects, but, Now, to give you an example, take cannabis, marijuana, THC, DELTA9, DELTA8, and CBD. CBD is legal everywhere, and you can think of these things like bass, treble, and mid-range. In fact, you can pretty much think of everything in the universe as bass, treble, and mid-range, but it's a different conversation. Actually, it's not, but anyway, I don't want to lose you. So CBD, you can think of as the bass. It's like this physical feeling that, just makes you tired if you're me, but a lot of people, they get themselves amped up during the day, they got to sleep, they got to get up tomorrow. It's just kind of like the body feeling that a lot of people had correlated with cannabis. And probably for a lot of people, the reason that they used it. But what was called the high, the psychoactive effect, for a lot of them was probably merely tolerated at times. Maybe at other times was enjoyed, perhaps, right? And at other times, just maybe like detested, like put up with for the other thing that they were after. And so the better we can get as a society into isolating composite parts, with more specificity, with more clarity, in marketing, what we call split testing. But, it's just the closer we all are to the Socratic method, the scientific method, when you can isolate things, even though there is no such thing as things, everything is verb, moving at different oscillations and frequencies, but it's not, I don't want to lose you. But yeah, so the scientific method, the word holy is that which separates. The reason Jews have 9 million, don't do this and don't mix with that, and this plate for this, and you can't mix your dairy with your meat, all that, is not because God is like a tedious tightwad. It was supposed to be 9 million reminders throughout the day of what God is, right? So the more you isolate composite parts, the more intelligent you become, and it's no surprise that Jews are very high IQ individuals. So it's not a bad thing. Going back to the the CBD, the DELTA8. It's not a bad thing for people to experience that distinction, right? Just between things that they might have thought they were after, but had really merely correlated in their mind. Now me personally, I don't want any of it, but I got a guy, I'll sell it to you, because I think it's noble. I understand it both experientially and also conceptually, but the fact that I don't care for it at the moment, is no detraction from the fact that I understand you do, or that many, a good percentage of you do. My aversion is more, it's kind of on a minor level, macro to micro, like when Ram Dass gave the Maharaji, I think it was like 1,200 micrograms of LSD, which is like, 10 street doses or something. And Maharaji just laughed at him, like it just did nothing to him. And then the moral of the story was, like if you're in Chicago, you don't take a train to Chicago. But so that has no bearing on anything really. But the back to the point. So you think of like the CBD as the base. It's the body feeling that you correlated, and then the DELTA8 is like the mid range, right? It does have a psychoactive effect, but weed's little brother or something they call it. A lesser one, okay? It's also legal. And if you wanted to be like a little creative, maybe you wanted to make a movie scene more interesting, it gives you that little shot of curiosity, And this world is deeply lacking in curiosity, which can't be taught, and which is a problem. In fact, it's the problem. But perhaps the biggest problem humanity is facing is compartmentalized knowledge. You know what I mean? Which leads to what I call the opposite of mesonoxia, but collateral inefficiency. Okay, like about collateral damage. It's like this collateral inefficiency from everybody having so many things correlated and lacking in clarity. But they say, professionally speaking, anyway, that you have to dig one deep well to hit water. And what that means, the moral of that parable is that, too much shallow digging across the surface of the earth, and you have done enough cumulative digging to have hit water, but you don't hit it because you just dug a bunch of little shallow holes. However, when you become familiar with more terrain, you become more expert in what distinguishes this soil from this one, and then you're on your way. Kind of like the knock on it is like, jack of all trades, master of none. But the problem today is people, they dug their hole and they hit water, but then they stop digging, right? Whereas they know one thing. So everybody's expert at their one thing, and you see this in science and medicine, but it all doesn't come together, right? Whereas a guy like Da Vinci just mastered everything, right? So what did he know? Well, I'm going to tell you. You say, wait, hang on, Justin. Who the hell are you to tell me what the hell Da Vinci knew? Who the hell are you? I'm nobody. I'm nobody special. I'm just some guy. When you're somebody special, you tend to attract the wrong kind of attention sometimes. So mesonoxia, it's a little bootleg. It's the existential moonshine I always told you. But back to the point. So the mid-range, the DELTA8, it does have a psychoactive effect, just a lesser one, like we were saying. And so, a lesser one from what you might have remembered from marijuana when you smoked it many years ago, or if you still do, or whatever. But all the agitation is gone, right? The paranoia is gone. Now, that could partly be, I suppose, because it's legal, so you don't, feel like you're doing something wrong. Part of the paranoia. But mostly it's a physiological thing. It's just different. So, it's like your sleep number high, right? So where an individual can more accurately adjust the bass and the mid-range to their liking the way they would with music. Now, to me, the treble, the DELTA8, the part that they always said got you high, which I don't even know if is the part anyone ever even really wanted. Maybe some of them, I don't know. I don't know everyone. I'm not everyone. I don't know everything. All I know is that what I don't know is trivia. But treble, for a lot of people, it's just like the stress, right? It's not a perfect metaphor because treble can be good in a song, but how just too much of it, and it's just up too high, it's ecstatic, it's annoying, you know what I mean? It's like a negative. I wish I could just turn that knob down. Does it go to a negative? Just see you later, goodbye, And, as an aside, there's an old urban legend, there's some confusion around where the term 420 came from. But one theory goes, and makes sense, that at one time they believed there was 420 active components to the plant. Today I think they know of over 500 different cannabinoids and things like that. But when the government had patented Marinol, they were only interested in one of them, this DELTA8 treble, which, was never very successful in treating AIDS wasting syndrome, Marinol, for cataracts or glaucoma or whatever the hell they use it for medicinally, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't the plant. It was just this one thing. And that's what medicine tends to do. They look for active components. Again, this is compartmentalized knowledge. So 420 was like a holistic statement. There's a synergy involved in life. It's not just the bug, it's the terrain, it's all that. So you have to understand the totality of the situation. Again, holy, that which separates. So I think that, as a society, anytime we can more efficiently and more accurately and with more clarity do anything or help anyone do anything with less, unwanted side effects or unwanted direct effects, it's just good for everyone involved. Like alcohol, prohibition didn't work. People they're not going to listen to you. They're going to do whatever the hell they want. The same things now basically happen with cannabis, and there's going to be different states and laws and different ways of doing things. But just in general, I knock science a lot. You've heard me do that. But, on this one, it's a good job. You know what I mean? Like, the more you can isolate cannabinoids or isolate anything and help people not correlate things in their mind, that's, the route to enlightenment. Now, basically, the better we can get, right, isolating composite parts, split testing, understanding with more specificity. I'll tell you one other thing. The reason I used to sell timeshare, there's a lot of reasons why I do a lot of things, but one good reason was I got to spend like 2 hours with people every day. Like every day it was somebody new, and I could get their rapt attention. And if they're really listening to me for 2 hours, I'll change your life. But, sometimes at the end of the day, they rewarded me by buying a timeshare, and sometimes they didn't. And if they got their money's worth out of that or not, they got their money's worth from me. But I got to, when you're in the presence of a real teacher, unlike the kind you've encountered your entire life, to borrow from, Carlin for a sec. But, the subject matter doesn't matter. There's only one thing to teach. Darkness is not light's opposite. Darkness is just the absence of light. That's a semantic distinction, but it's an important one. But the only thing to teach is that, the better we can get to isolate effects, like I said, wholly that which is separate. It was almost like the scientific method before it was a thing. That scientific method was in the Bible. Spoiler alert. Rather than correlate those effects, that's the path, that's the way. So, this is Justin, just giving my full-throated endorsement for the separation and isolation of composite parts and measuring their effects with more specificity and to a degree of precision that ends at Zeno's paradox or God or you see, everything is infinitely divisible. So we'll never get to understand everything. We get a little closer and it doesn't matter because everything's a binary. It's just a little this way, a little that way. You can call it male and female, protons and electrons, quarks and antiquarks, mesons. You can do it all. Just putting a name to something, but it's all this binary, and where you fall in between that is mesonoxia. When you look at like the Hindu god, Vishnu and Shiva, and how you see with the 4 arms and the legs, and right, and it's like this androgynous thing. Well, imagine like the gaps in your vertebrae, those 33 gaps, and then imagine like your counterpart's vertebrae inserted into those gaps. So it's like a one being, like an asexual being, like a virgin birth, like it's its own thing. And then like where it separates, like woman from man's rib, like that original split. Like you think about at the 13th week of gestation, your pineal gland, the top there, right in the middle, right, your brain, it releases a hormone which determines whether you're male or female. Not to be crude, but a penis is really like a gigantic clitoris. Like, why do men have nipples? Ever think about that? It's because we're all built in the same platform. It's one thing. So it's this binary, it's this one thing, it's this distinction in the middle. It's mesonoxia. But, DELTA8, CBD and stuff. Because you see, and I think I told you before, but mesonoxia is like a bag of seeds, little mustard seeds, that scoundrels came in the evening and polluted with dirt beans as a means of leaving your yield diluted. Maybe not on purpose, bygones. But be they an authority or just a man's competition, it's all in essence planned obsolescence when the mez strains come to fruition. But there was a message veiled from the sinister to be kept just between us. Between between us. A master administrator embedded in a public haranguing. That said, don't discard the whole god-darn bag, genius. For it ain't the hardest to spot at harvest shoddy mid-grade from the banging. Knockoffs, be wary. Neither telephone games nor direct misinformation can stop this wildfire from blazing the nation. Switching gears erratically, even uphill, ain't much when a touch of the midnight moon shines in your clutch. But heed an old caveat, a warning from a man of his time about mixing new wineskins with vintage moonshine, like new patches on old garments, or casting pearls before swine. And store your kind free from light, or the bandits, and or anyone else, can't find. To the sea, cast ambiguous, in/divisible lines, when for hearts and minds of men you've gone fishing in a shady, crazy pool. Skipping gears quick fucks up the translation/mission of Mezzo.
I am that I am, I am, I am.